YouTubers, family and friends, back in the shop and showing you the final this morning. Welcome back to the channel. Foreigner Escapes the Philippines. My name's Edward, and this is the final product that I'm going to be showing you of my lithium battery setup. I'll walk you through the steps of what I did, what yesterday I did with the electrician, the final wiring, and then I'll go and tell you what my final cost was altogether, estimated within a few thousand pesos, so, or a few $1,000s. So let's get started. Like you all know, if you watch any of my videos, I have a 15,000 kW solar system with like 36 300-watt solar panels and 3 solar inverters, which you're looking at right here, and that's a grid tie system. And so if there's a blackout situation, my solar system goes down. But if it's not a blackout, I'm selling what power I don't use back to the power company, which comes out to around 50%. I use 50% and sell 50% back to the company. So my last bill was like 6,000 pesos, or actually it was 7,000 pesos almost, and 3,500 of that was credits that I had sold back to them. So my bill was 3,500 pesos, which is still, about what, $60-70, which is way too high. But now that I have this, which is my lithium ion phosphate LiFePO4 batteries, it's a 48 volt system, 16 280 amp hour 3.2 volt batteries, hooked up with a battery management system and a hybrid inverter. So I used it a lot last night and it worked flawlessly. I went 10 hours running not any big items, but just I have three refrigerator freezers that are running all the time, 24/7, and about 3 or 4 fans, like ceiling fans and also stand fans, and then lights. We keep some lights on outside by the store all night long, and some lights inside the house all night long. And there was no problem whatsoever. And I don't know how far my battery bank actually went down last night, but because I don't have indication of that on my inverter that I know of. I'm still getting used to the menu, going through the menu and adjusting the settings in the menu of the inverter. So I've done a lot of that this morning, so I can put a higher charge on it, because the defaults were too low, and the low DC cutoff, I adjusted that up a little bit. So yeah, it's looking real good. I got one thing I had to do is on the positive side of the DC right here, I had a 200 amp fuse. Well, we put some polarity through it, and 54 volts was on the battery side and only 24 volts was getting through it. So it was sold to me as a bad fuse. So it was one of them slow reacting lag time fuses, and it was faulty. So I had to pull the fuse out of the system, and then I'm running without a fuse right now. But I still have the 160 amp breaker here that's coming off the bank, which should be sufficient for now until I order another 200 amp fuse that I'm going to put in line on the positive side right here. And I don't know if it's really needed, but I like to have that extra protection, and that's what I'm going to do. I've already sourced a couple out. I just haven't pulled the trigger on ordering it yet. So this here is a Mr. Power solar inverter / charger. So one thing when my electrician and I were doing the final wiring here yesterday is that when the batteries are charging, this switch on the side of it has to be in the electrical on position, and then the other side, which is your single slash, is the DC on position. So I just thought it was on and off, but if you go into a blackout situation, you have to go switch that switch to the DC side so it draws its power from DC, and then it starts inverting to 220 volt power to the rest of your system, right? So this is a DIY system, right? So it's all do it yourself per my situation, my location, and how I want it to work. So when I built this compression box for the batteries, I put wheels. So see, this thing is super heavy, and so I have wheels, caster wheels underneath. So I can move this thing around, at will, as long as I got, enough wire here to move it. So I can flip it, 180 degrees over to this side and make room for another battery bank here, or I can put another battery bank here, and that's kind of my plan. I want to put 2 more of these banks in. One of them is going to be on this side, and I think I'm going to put one of them on the wall on this side. So I'll have another one on the ground and another one on the wall. And that's kind of my situation in that area, what the future plans are. So right now, like I said, this is a 48 volt inverter and a 48 volt system. Some people like 24 volts or 12 volt. The most efficient is the 48 volt system. So that's what I went with. What we did on wiring, I did almost all the wiring yesterday, and then my electrician did the final landings, which is in this other room here. Let me turn the light on real quick in there. So my electrician, Glenn, he did this yesterday. So what we had done, it might look kind of gnarly to you guys, but it's safe. We went with this 35 millimeter wire on this. This is your switch from Zeneco, which is my power company power. That's grid power. And then in a blackout, or if I just want to start using my generator or my battery banks, then I switch this breaker off, switch this over, switch this breaker up, and then that puts power to this knife switch. And this knife switch is, I have 2 choices. I can either go up with it to my battery bank usage, or I can go down with it to my gen set and use my generator. Here's my generator behind me here. It's a 24 kW generator. I've only ever used about 10 or 11 kW off of it, so I have plenty of power on generator power. I have spare if I ever need it, and if I expand my building here. I planned on building a hotel or a boarding house, whatever you want to call it, here in the Philippines, on the other side of this wall here, like an 8 to 12 units. And so I have plenty of spare power if it's ever needed for expansion. So this is my 200 amp panel that supplies power to my entire property. So like I say, depending on whatever I want to use, I just switch this knife switch. And what I'll do is, because this thing creates a spark if you have power going to here before you put it on the switch. So I'll put the knife switch in the position I want it. Like if I want to go to my battery bank, I'll go all the way up with my knife switch. Then I'll put power to it by turning on and closing this breaker, right? And then that'll give me power up to here, which will go all the way over to my inverter, which the power goes this way, not that way. So the inverter brings the power through this. This is 8mm wire is all this is. And I supplied all my property in my house from the battery bank off this 8mm wire, which is like a number 8 AWG size wire, which is a lot smaller than this 35mm coming off the main panel, and this is, I think, is 25mm. This is what goes to the generator. So I'm going to fill this hole in with some epoxy or some cement later, but that's all we had to do to get into the box there, so we could have another route for these wires here. So anyways, that's the setup. It's really easy. And then to get AC, we had to come off some wires in this lower box from the grid to get AC over to the inverter, so we could charge my batteries. So during the daytime, when I get free solar power from the sun, that's when I turn on power from the grid to charge my batteries. Now I can also charge my batteries with solar panels if I want, but I didn't hook those up into this inverter. If I put panels on this roof, and in the future I can run wire down to this lower area, and there's an input right here to take solar power wires, solar panel wires. So I could put 2, 3, 4 panels. There's still room on this roof, or I could even put them further away. It's up to me. And then just run the wire and hook it up. And then I can go into the menu and set that up because there's prioritization for using solar power to charge your battery before utility power charges your battery. And I mean, if you guys know anything about manuals for these inverters or some of this equipment, you can sit down for days and going through the menu and setting it all up. But once you've done 2 or 3 different pieces of equipment, gone through the menus, they're all set up kind of the same, where you have to go into that section you want, you have to push enter, then you have to make your changes and then push enter again. It's pretty simple. The only thing I was confused on with this inverter compared to other inverters I had dealt with is that switch on the side, right? What I thought was power on off switch. Well, it's not. It's power on AC switch and power on DC switch, and it doesn't say that where any place in the manual that I had read. So that's one thing you gotta watch out for. Luckily, my electrician had dealt with one of these before and kind of clued me in right away, so I was thankful that he was here. Because at first when it happened, I'm like, what? Everything's set up and the wiring is good. Maybe the inverter came faulty from China, which happens a lot when you're ordering Lazada or Shopee or any of these vendors that are coming from China. You get a lot of bad equipment. Like I say, that fuse I had ordered, and I paid like $20 for that fuse. Garbage. It was garbage before I even paid for it. But until you test it, get it in your hands and test it, and then it's too late. So anyways, I'm real happy the way it turned out. I got plenty of power now. The bank is full. It took about 4.5 hours to charge it with 30 amps. this morning where I just bumped up my amps to 40 amps, and I can go all the way up to like 120 amps, but there's no need. If I can charge this thing up fully in like 3 hours with 30 amps, and that's awesome. And that's what I mean. I need to get an indicator, and I'm going to order one where I can see a readout of how many percent charge is left in this battery bank. And I've seen them online. I just need to order one, and so I can always see what percent my battery bank still has in it of charge. You know what I mean? So like last night when I used my battery bank for 10 hours, I didn't really know what the charge. I thought it was down to 15% charge from 100% when I woke up in the morning, but that was percent load that it was showing, not percent battery charge. So, you know, I'm just getting used to it, and I'll get more, like I say, I'll order that indicator so I always know what percent my battery bank is in. But whatever percent it was in this morning when I woke up, it took 4 hours, 4.5 hours, and on 30 amps of charge, and it was at full capacity again. So, you know, that's one thing I really know, because then I can set my amperage charge to what I really want it to be, and then I'll know exactly how long it takes of so many amps per hour to charge from the utility, from the grid, charge the battery bank back up to full. So that's important to know. And because I only have, for free power off the grid, I only have like a 6-hour window really, and really a 4-hour if you want to be technical, all year round from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's my charge time, where I absolutely have to charge or use any kind of huge electricity usage around here from 10 to 2. That is almost guaranteed free unless it's a real super dark and rainy day. So you just got to get used to all that stuff if you're going to be, you know, having an off-grid system, or even a on-grid hybrided system like I have now. And so it's nice with all the blackouts that occur in the Philippines to have, now I have battery backup. And not only generator, but battery backup. So, and eventually, like I say, if I get 2 more of these banks, so I got 3 battery banks to rely on, I can go completely off grid for now on. Yeah, from that point on, I can use all my air conditioners, anything I want, all the time, and then still set up my battery charging from 10 to 2 off the grid, and then also I will supplement it with some solar panels, so I can charge with solar panels too. And then I can pretty much have my usage off the grid is going to go from, right now it's between 600 and 700 kilowatts per month, and I'll go from, once I get 3 banks, I'll go from there down to maybe 200. But then the majority of my solar power production is going to be sold back to the utility, right? Back to the power company. So it'll guarantee me my bill to be 0 all the time. And even now, with even this one bank, I can use this just by using this for 10 to 12 hours a day, from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., let's say. I should easily be able to use that bank during that time, 12 hours a day, and then go back to grid power, and then charge it up from 10 to 2, charge it back up, and then my power usage off the grid is going to go way down too, from, like I say, between 600 and 700, probably down to below 400 or maybe even 300. I don't know. This is the next month and a half here is kind of a testing period the 25th of the month. Today's like the 15th or 16th. So I got, 10 more days before they read the meter, and then I go into a new month. So I got really 6 weeks before I really know and get down a system of how much I'm going to be saving by using this one battery bank. So anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. I just wanted to run you through the new system I got in place, and this is what I do in preparation when you're homesteading and preparing, and you're trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. And that's the key, that's the goal, and that's what I'm doing here in the deep jungle of the Philippines. So take care, love you guys, and talk with you later. God bless. Bye-bye.